Are you ready to connect with nature in a whole new way? Welcome to The Green Scene, your guide to a greener, healthier world. Join Green Corridors Andiswa Dlamini, Duncan Pritchard and Sharlene Versfeld to explore the wonders of nature and find out how we can live more sustainably and take small actions at home and work to make a big impact.
Hello everybody and welcome back to The Green Scene. This is where we help people find ways to reconnect back to the planet and live along with the critters and creatures which we were talking about in the episode before. I'm your host Andiswa and today we'll be talking about ecotourism. Yes, now we're out and about and playing in the wild. So, what are we doing around Durban and what is ecotourism in our communities? What role does it play economically and what impact does it have and how it all connects with nature? Exciting subject. I'm seeing beautiful eyes here from Sharlene being excited. How's it, Duncan, Sharlene? Welcome, guys.
How's it?
Yeah, and we've been talking in the past few episodes about biodiversity and ecosystems and all these critters, and ecotourism gives you a chance to actually go and experience it, and it'll enrich your life. Google it. Google the psychological value of being in nature, or it's not just a nice hobby. It is actually really, really, really good for you. It's cheaper than a psychologist, I promise you.
I love being outdoors. I get outdoors as much as I can. Durban has so many incredible spaces. Well, KZN, South Africa. Blue sky for once, yeah.
So guys, let's talk about ecotourism. What is it? Is it something that's big in Durban? Is it something that's trending?
So ecotourism by definition, so everybody thinks if you just go into nature, it's considered ecotourism. But by definition, ecotourism is actually tourism that supports nature and conservation and supports the people who live there. So there's two important things there, that there's got to be a flow of benefits to the local community and there's got to be a flow of benefits to nature for it to actually be technically considered ecotourism. We work a lot in this community-based tourism space at Green Corridors, and something that fascinates me quite often is like Durban residents here will go off to the Drakensberg or to the game reserve, and that's like ecotourism, we're going to nature. But we've got so many of these places on our doorstep right here in Durban where you could actually, within half an hour drive, you could have an ecotourism experience that rivals being in, the Drakensberg or Blood River Canyon, wherever you're going. We've got some really, really magical places, and the benefit to supporting those places for making sure that they're conserved into the future and providing benefits for the people who live there is really significant. For example, we've got a whole range of sites that go up the Molweni Valley. So you could take a spot like Mkeku Picnic Spot, which is a beautiful, beautiful natural bump slide that goes into the Molweni River. Imagine from Hillcrest if you just dropped right down into the valley. And it's quite remote, but when you get there, it's a really magical day out. But when you look around, you do not see another house. You don't see a road. But Subasiso, who owns that site and manages that site, he looks after it it's his bread and butter. It's his revenue. And those benefits can, spread quite rapidly. Tourism's got this thing called the multiplier effect where, a little bit of money spent by the tourist has such a broader effect on the economy. So we do this pop-up camping, for example, where people can come and we set up a whole camp for them and tents and ablutions and kitchen area. And somewhere like Mkeku, he's getting camping fees there, paying for security. There's people doing catering. The people are going to the local taverns and buying drinks. They're hiring bicycles. So there's a whole little ecosystem of little businesses that start benefiting off that little visit there. So in your mind, it's just, I'm paying camping fees. But for that community, there's a whole broad range of benefits that come out of it.
And then also using, that particular site as well, because it's become quite a popular site with the 4x4 community. And so they drive down there into the valley, they go camping there and they do the excursions there and that kind of stuff. And that also generates kind of other income for another business, which then feeds into this kind of thing, That site itself is used for things like a company parties, and it's just a gorgeous, pristine place. But you can see the benefits when you are interacting with the local people there of how they're able to provide services for the sites.
Yeah.
Another really good example is Overrock. There's a young Rastafarian guy that set up a range of hiking trails there. And there's a big waterfall, and he hikes people down at the bottom of the waterfall. However, plastic was coming down the waterfall, and the little pool at the bottom, which should be this pristine experience, was constantly filled with empty bottles. He found there was a tavern upstream, just a couple of 100 meters up from where the hike starts. He's made friends with the guy. They're working together. So none of the trash from that tavern actually now leaves the tavern. It all gets really well managed, and he's dealt with that plastic at the bottom of the waterfall.
Oh, no.
So it's a really effective thing, which I feel like if I'd gone in there and spoken to the tavern owner and said, oh, you guys are littering too much, it's ruining the waterfall, I would have been laughed out of there. But somebody in the community that's benefiting out of it and can actually have those sort of conversations and engagements, it's just such a more effective way of actually dealing with these things.
I'm going to now act as a normal Durbanite. I am living in Kloof. Could you maybe give me 3 areas I can visit, which are these ecotourism sites by Green Corridors?
iSithumba is close by, down into the Valley of 1,000 Hills. Beku is, we've mentioned, and Overrock.
I would also throw eNanda Adventures in there as well. Yeah, there's so much to do at eNanda Adventures.
And it's right on the dam, guys.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of water activities to do there as well. And a beautiful picnic site, I believe.
Yep, and the hiking is spectacular. Some you need to be fairly fit, some you don't. But all the sites have some kind of hiking around. There's also mountain bike trails, canoeing, fishing in some sites, but all just engaging with the local guys that are actually running these things.
Yeah. They've all got their own little nuances. Like, iSithumba, for instance, has got, really beautiful chalets. They can host big functions and conferences. I think they have... they had a group of 4x4 guys down there the other day, hosting 200 people, big conference venue, so, you've got that level of fairly developed community tourism, through to, a site like Matata Adventures, up on top of eNanda Mountain where, you've really just got peace and quiet and a beautiful view. So they've all got their little something that's special. But, you can camp at all of them. They've all got hiking trails, waterfalls, wildlife forests,
And passionate guides. Passionate and interested in the nature around them and knowledgeable, It's a different experience for people, and it's just stepping over into being brave enough to take a different adventure, which is more of a sort of informal adventure. Doesn't have bells and whistles, but it's everything that you could imagine and more.
It sounds like all these sites have a character of their own. I mean, you spoke about Overrock having a waterfall, run by a local Rasta guy there. So you spoke about Mqegu, where you do bump slides and 4x4s. You spoke about iSithumba as well being a cultural site. So now, with all of these sites, they bring different value into their communities. But what nature value do they add in these communities? Because it is ecotourism.
It's something that's happened quite naturally. And this is one of the real value of ecotourism when it's done the right way. What we found at almost all the sites that we've got projects at, the guides and the people that run those projects start having those conversations with their community quite naturally. They recognize that if there's trash and litter in the river, tourists don't like it, and that affects my business. And we start dealing with those sort of things. Almost all of them run some sort of educational projects with their schools.
Schools, yeah.
I know up at Matata, Lou runs that site. He takes groups of kids camping every other weekend when he's not busy, just that they can experience what it's like to go camping. Most of these places, people have never had the privilege of being a tourist themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So to get that whole community understanding the value of this. So, it's something that if you were to sit and design the project and on paper you'd think, we've got to do a whole lot of community awareness, and you actually don't. It happens so naturally. And that's the benefit of people coming in there. And also, one of the things I love is people come to a place like Mkeku. Subusisi's grown up there for his children. If there wasn't a campsite and tourists there, it would just be, how do I get out of this valley? How do I get to the city and get a job? And, so people don't see opportunity in their own place. But now suddenly you've got tourists coming and saying, oh, wow, this is beautiful, this is wonderful. You start feeling pride, and you start seeing opportunities for your future. So really, tourism can be an amazing catalyst for positive change.
Yeah, that's exactly the direction we're heading now with this conversation.
I think it's small things. I mean, in our heads, often we think we need to do these massive, huge projects and that kind of stuff to encourage kind of businesses and that kind of stuff. But it's a small intervention that is making a big difference in people's lives. Yeah.
I'm now booking a pop-up camp through Green Corridors, and I've been told that the pop-up camp that I'm booking for is making some economical value. Could you break that down for me, that for my booking, who am I impacting in, for example, let's talk about, again, Mqegu, who is benefiting from me booking a pop-up camp with my family of 2-3 kids and my husband?
If you make a booking for instance, a pop-up camp experience or a guided tour or whatever that experience is through Green Corridors, all of that revenue ends up in the community. So that revenue is going directly to the community and the people who live there. And I mentioned earlier, you've got these knock-on effects. So a weekend camping at Mkeku, there's camping fees that are going to Subusiso, who owns the site. There's somebody who's going to be doing catering. There's somebody who's providing security. There's going to be a guide who's going to take you on a walk. There's going to be the local tavern up the road where you're going to go and get a few beers at sunset. So there's the benefits in that community are really, really significant. And that's a lot of our ethos there. The benefit has to stay in the community. There's a big thing in tourism that they call leakage. And I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but if the average safari booked to Africa, the amount of money that actually ends up in the community after you've paid travel agents and airlines and hotels and blah, 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 car hire, the amount of money is actually such a small amount of that revenue, So and it's a big problem in tourism. That's something we're trying to address with the projects that we run at Green Corridors, is this idea of leakage. It's a big problem when people say that tourism's one of the biggest industries in the world. Ecotourism is the fastest growing sector in the world. Yet people living around these beautiful areas are still living in poverty. You've got to understand there's a fundamental problem with how tourism is done. And that's what we're trying to change.
Definitely.
The small places, I think, make a huge impact, and the small enterprises, for want of a better word, make a huge impact on communities that are running these things. I mean, on the travels that I've done, you look at the little farm stall or the ladies who have cooked the food or whatever it is, who are all benefiting from other people coming to the area to do things. So we've got incredible places to visit in Durban that can help support these kind of businesses and things. Yeah.
I think it's quite clear now that by us exploring these green spaces, it has impact on, for example, our health, impact on our economic situation in communities, the social cohesion is all happening there. But the big question out there for everybody, is it safe?
Yes, it is safe. I've camped quite a bit and I've done a lot of the walks and the hikes, and the guides that are with you know the people in the communities. They have, if you camp at Mkeku, for example, the local people there are the security guards. So you are pretty safe.
And that's the benefit of community tourism, because people are benefiting off you being there. They look after you. You don't get that on the beachfront. In more formal, normal tourism environments. But community tourism, that community is benefiting off you. They want you to be safe. They want you to come back. They want you to tell your friends. And in most of these rural communities, you're pretty safe compared to, certainly safer than you are in your home in the suburbs, I would argue.
And you feel looked after. Like if you go for a walk down into the actual houses around the community, you feel like people are greeting you and saying hello, and, children are running and waving at you and that kind of stuff. So you feel like you're most welcome in these places. Yeah,
if you've not experienced like rural Durban, because we've got suburbia Durban, then we've got kind of township Durban, and then you've got rural Durban. If you've not experienced rural Durban, I really encourage you to just, even if it's just a day, go out to eNanda, take a hike to the Mzanyati Falls or something with a guide. It's a very, very different culture and experience and lifestyle, and remarkably laid back compared to 10 kilometers that way. And, if you go to the Green Corridors website, just Google Durban Green Corridor or greencorridors.co.za. There's a section there on experiences and all these different things you can experience. So, we do a shuttle tour in a tour bus where you can go and see 5 waterfalls in the morning. What other city can you go and see 5 different waterfalls in the morning? It's quite remarkable. Or you can go on a cultural tour, or you can go for a weekend camping, or you can go bird watching. There's something special in all of these places.
I think when you go into spaces like this, you realize, one, that there are safe spaces, that there are looked after spaces, and that they're interesting and fascinating spaces with a lot of stuff to do. And that in itself it's like almost a step you need to take Okay, I'm not going to drive all the way into the Drakensberg and see that crowned eagle. I'm actually going to go into Upper Molweni and see that crowned eagle, and this guy's going to be able to tell me about it, And it's almost like stepping over a threshold of doing something that's quite different to what you've experienced before. The value that it's adding to those people's lives is enormous. And it also, I've got people now who are like, where's the next hike? Or, how can we get there? And that sort of thing.
Thank you so much, Sharlene and Duncan. It's really insightful to hear the enthusiasm from you guys and to hear the impact that ecotourism has in our social economy. Also, and the fact that it helps us get to be in touch with nature and to teach our kids more about these wonderful animals in our backyards, which now we're in their natural spaces, and how we can actually make an impact into individuals personally, into their lives, and impact communities as well. But I think just one last thing. If someone is listening and has been touched by what we've been talking about or inspired about a project that's similar they want to work with or collaborate with us, or want to also, just as an individual person, want to work with a certain individual within these programs, how would they go about doing it?
The easiest way is just to go to our website, get in touch with us. There's so much opportunity for good, and a little intervention can make such a big difference in people's lives. So we really need that support and new areas that we want to develop. And training of guides is an expensive thing. So we're always on the look for partners who want to support these sort of projects. Just like reach out, just have a chat about it, and where you can get involved.
To everyone around Durban, if you want to be in these communities, experiencing, connecting, want to live a healthier life, being in touch with nature, communities, splashing, exploring in these wonderful waterfalls, go on our Green Corridor website, and I'm on the other side of the line. I'll be sure to assist you, and till next time, that's a wrap from us.
See you next time.
Thanks, Andiswa.
The Green Scene podcast is a partnership between East Coast Radio and Green Corridors. Find out more about Green Corridors via durbangreencorridor.co.za.